Next on Men Talk, we ask the question, are all boys destined to follow in the footsteps of their father? In other words, if my father was a drunk, am I going to be a drunk? If my father spent time in prison, am I going to end up in prison? Can I break the cycle that was embedded in my family for generations? We discussed this on Saturday, 21st May on Men Talk. Our guest from Canada, Victor L. Smith. So join the Men Talk team of Riquen Allen, George Thomas, and me, Noel Professor Richards, as we discuss the roots of our fathers. It's Men Talk, Saturday 21st May on FBN TV, Isaac the Promise Facebook page, and Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise, sponsored by Anaya Tony, the Feet Lady.
To the men who feel like you're at your wit's end, don't know how you got in this mess, and you're standing there looking, saying, where do I begin? Maybe it's too late, too long, too much.
This is Men Talk on Isaac 98.1 FM.
I've got
the Men Talk program, as you know, it's every Saturday around this time. And of course, Professor and his guest is standing by. Professor, are you hearing me? Professor, are you hearing? Hello, Professor? Getting a bit of an echo. Hello? All right, so as we work on some technical difficulties. Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Okay, great. Well, good evening to you. Good evening to Trinidad and Tobago and wherever else you're listening. We want to welcome you to Men Talk on Isaac 90.1 FM, on FBN TV, and also on Isaac the Promise of Facebook page. And for those of you who don't know, maybe you're new to the program or new to the segment, well, every Saturday at 8 o'clock, from 8 to 9:30, 1 hour and a half of talk, of men talking. And we talk because we understand talking brings deliverance, it brings relief and release. Talking helps, it helps to empty you so that you can be filled again. Talking is therapy, and that is why we talk. And we encourage men to talk because we understand that men are not, we are not talkers usually. The ladies talk, natural for ladies to talk. But for men, you know, it takes a lot of encouragement. So what we do is that we try to provide the right environment, the right atmosphere, you know, where men would feel comfortable to talk. Because we know that once we create that environment, men will talk. And so we have been doing this for the past 16 plus years, once a week, where we gather together and allow the men to talk. Now, it's not just a male program. It's a program for both men and women. We have lots of women and lots of females who are tuned into the program every week. And you know, some of them meet me and tell me how much the program means to them, what it does for them. And so we want to say thank you to all the ladies. Now, if you are a female and you are listening perhaps for the first time, we want to let you know that it's an interactive program in that we have a topic, we discuss it, and then we open the lines along the way to get feedback. Now, this is important, ladies. Because the program is Men Talk and we want to encourage the men to talk, we ask the ladies not to call in when we open up the lines, please. No ladies. Now, we created history over the last 2 weeks where we had women calling in. And ladies, we thank you. I want to say thank you again to Madonna for coming and sharing with us on the topic, what women want, so that we now, as men, understand what women want. Well, at least in part, we understand a little bit of what women want. And we want to say thank you to Madonna and all the ladies who contributed. But we're back to our normal format where we take calls from men only. So ladies, please do not call in. I know it's difficult sometimes. I know you hear us men say things that you want to clarify, you want to correct, you want to, you know, add your 2 cents. But ladies, we're asking you. However, ladies, it is not that we're leaving you out, you know, altogether. You can WhatsApp us at 275-1981. You can take that number down, 275-1981. That's the number, ladies. Don't send us a voice note. Send us a WhatsApp, a text message. It's a WhatsApp number 2751981. Men, I will give you the numbers for you to call. We are back to our regular numbers that we had before. So, men, we're going to give you the numbers that you can call uh, when we open up the lines. But, ladies, 275, excuse me, 1981. That's the numbers for you to send a text message. We will acknowledge you, ladies, and we will, deal with whatever you're asking or whatever contribution you're making. I want to introduce my co-hosts tonight, George Thomas and Riquen Allen. George, are you there? Good evening and welcome.
Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, Professor. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago and Men Talk listeners worldwide. It is definitely a pleasure to be here once again for another Saturday, another Men Talk. I missed out last week, but by God's grace, I'm much better this week and raring to go.
Mm.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Riquen, are you there?
Yes, good evening. I am live and alive with you guys. And thank you again for having me. And a warm welcome to our guests. We will have a successful program this evening because we have the victor with us.
Thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's introduce our guests. And don't forget, in studio, we have Ada Sola. We also have Raymond O'Keel, and they can chime in at any time. They are in studio. We have somebody else in studio, but we're not going to mention because it's a female, so we don't want any female coming in at any time. So we're not even going to mention the females in studio. Only the males. It's mentor this evening. So our guest, our special guest this evening is Victor Smith. And he is all the way in Canada. Thank God for technology. Thank God that we can stay on one side, of the river, one side of the sea, one side of the ocean, one side of the globe, and talk to somebody, in real time at another,
Mm.
another part, thousands of miles away. And we want to
Yes.
introduce Mr. L. Smith all the way from Canada. In the promo, we just said Victor L. Smith from Canada. And Victor, that really didn't do you any justice at all.
Mm.
So as we welcome you today to Isaac 98.1 FM studio, we want you to share a little bit about yourself. Who is Victor L. Smith? And I understand, before you say, I understand, I even from getting information about you that you're a humble guy, and I appreciate that. And the humility is good. It's one of the traits that is sorely lacking in a lot of people. And but there are times when we need, for example, tonight we need to know who you are. We need to know your background. We need to know a little bit about you. It helps with credibility, with acceptance, and
Hmm.
that sort of thing. So,
Okay.
Mr. Victor L. Smith, who are you? Good evening and welcome to Men Talk on the 98.1 FM, and tell us who you are.
Okay. I want to say thank you for having me, for the invite. Uh, Definitely much appreciative. I'm just a guy who enjoy helping men help men. I'm an elder at the church here in Toronto. I'm originally from the United States, from Birmingham, Alabama. We call it the Ham. So I'm originally from there. I married a Trinidadian, beautiful woman that showed me another side of the globe by bringing me here to Canada, and I'm enjoying it. But the question that you asked me, who am I? I'm a man who is very uh, appreciative that the Most High God, and I have to share that. That's who I am. I'm a man of faith who believe that men who stand upright will find out that everything that is for him will be there for him. I do believe in encouraging man, and in fact, have a support group of men called One Sound, One Voice. It's a support group that we chat with one another. Because of COVID times, we haven't had a chance to get together, but we do come together every day and we encourage each other. I like the fact that you said, Isaac, that one of the things that men don't do is we don't communicate a lot. We one word here, one word there, and then we keep it moving. But we finding out that when men don't talk, they suppress things, and then at the wrong time they blow up. So for myself, I'm a man's man. I do and believe encouraging men and encourage men to talk, share what's on their heart, but in a way that it comes off not aggressive, but at the same time, it comes off with an understanding of who he is and what he stands for. So I hope I gave somewhat of what you're asking for.
Yes, well, yeah, well, we now know you a little better. Here are some of the words that we use to describe you, and just doing some checking concerning you. Honest, open, transparent, a man's man, candid. And I hope I don't get anyone in trouble for saying this, but I was told that your wife says you are hot, and that's a good thing.
Mm.
That's a good thing for a man's wife to say that about him. So thank you so much, Victor, for guesting with us tonight and for sharing. Now, the topic tonight is the roots of our father, the roots of
Mm.
our fathers. We want to talk about that because it seems, as we said in the promo, are we destined to be what our fathers were? Are we as men destined to
Mm.
follow in the footsteps of our father, to follow the same route, to travel the same road? Are we destined for that? Because it's important for us to understand if that is so, then a lot of us, there's no hope for a lot of us because
Mm.
if my father, was a bad man, if he did things that maybe were illegal and immoral and that sort of thing, if it is so, and I have to follow in that, then I'm in trouble. So let's talk about that a little bit. I want you
Okay.
to I want to hand over to you right now and let's get the conversation going.
Okay, very good. So the roots of our fathers, the question that you asked is that if my father was a bad man, do I necessarily have to be one? Of course, we don't have to be that, but unfortunately, it seems as though society shapes us in that way. Now, my father, who is deceased, love him dearly. One of the things that he taught me is to do the opposite of some of the things that he have done. Now, again, I said my father was deceased, but for my father, there are 12 of us. Me, I'm the only child of my mom. So I, coming up, recognized that that's not what I wanted. I believe in having children and lots of them, but I wanted to be up under one roof. Now, the thing is that just because my dad was a pop of a Rolling Stone, do I necessarily have to fall into that position? No. What I do is say that I see what that has done, what it did for me, not having my father there all the time. It made me check myself and say I don't want to be in a position where I'm not there for my children. So you don't necessarily have to be in that position of your father. Um, if your father was a drunk, and I listened to the promo, am I going to be a drunk if my father was in jail? Do I have to necessarily be there? No, you don't have to necessarily be there. It's your choosing. It's your choice. Yes, there are things that in our society that may shape us to be that way, but do you necessarily have to go that way? I beg to differ. And so one of the things that I talk to a man about is that it's very important that you, before you have children, you educate yourself on what it is to have a child, a seed. Our seeds, what is in the man, is very valuable. And so you need to be in a position that once you begin to produce children, what are you going to leave as a legacy? Oftentimes we look at legacy as just money. It don't necessarily have to be that. A good characteristic of a legacy is that my father was, for example, my wife said I was hot, honest, open, and transparent. What legacy am I going to leave behind? Well, there's consistency with my dad. He was there for me. He came to my games, or he came and sat down with me. He just wasn't in the house. He was active in my life. So you don't have to be in a position, brothers, to feel that, well, because my dad was a drunk and I like drinking alcohol, I guess that I have to succumb to that. It's a choice if you want to do that or not.
You said, Victor, that you should educate yourself
Hmm.
in terms of being a father. But how do you do that? Because most times, for example, my wife and I have three young boys, right?
Okay.
Now, we're looking to educate them. But I don't think it's in their mind, at all. Well, what kind of father am I going to be? Let me learn what it is to be a father. And, boys will be boys, and they just go through life. So how do you
Mm.
get young men to start thinking about about them being a father? Because I don't think young boys think about being a father at a particular age,
Hmm.
and they're just living life. So how do we encourage men to start thinking that way? What do we have to do?
Well, one of the things that we noticed that boys look for mentors, right? So it starts with us as old heads. Wow, I can say now I'm an old head. They look at us, how we carry ourselves. You know, if a young man see you, professor, he's looking at, wow, I want to be a talk radio show host. I see how he is. He is witty. He's quick on his feet. Uh, he begins to look for a mentor. So one of the things that I recognize is that I did not want to pattern myself after what society said I should become. I mean, me coming from Birmingham, Alabama, we'll say if anything can come good out of Birmingham, Alabama, yes, it can. One of the things that I recognize is that if I wanted to something different, I had to do something different. So I had to educate myself by looking after men that somewhat I want to be. I mean, you think about it, young boys pattern themselves out. They want to be the next Michael Jordan. So they look for those things that they emulate. And so when they see positive role models in their communities, and that's one of the things that we as old heads have to be, is a positive role model. You don't necessarily have to tell a young man, come here and let me educate you, by speaking to him, taking time out with him, give him the opportunity to say, hey, you ever want to talk to me, I'm here for you. So it's just not them educating themselves, but we as old heads making sure that we are available when they need us.
Victor, we live in a different um, era.
Hmm.
When I was growing up, there were many men around that you could look up to.
Hmm.
Men in the neighborhood, in the community that you respected.
Hmm.
You didn't even have to know them well.
Hmm.
Just the fact that they were adults,
Okay.
you respected them. Now, we older men, you have to be careful how you talk to young people these days.
Hmm.
You have to be careful. I remember, I recall, and I think I shared it on air already. I was walking down the road one afternoon, and school was just out, just over.
I don't know if I froze or is it me?
Okay,
Hmm.
I think that we probably lost Professor there for a second. Just a minor technical difficulty. But nevertheless, it, I find it quite intriguing, this topic of.
Okay, guys, am I back? Are you hearing me?
All right, you're back, Professor? Okay, I'll hand back over to you, Professor.
Hmm.
Hello, Professor, are you there?
Professor seems to
Yeah,
be.
I think so. I think my internet is dropping. I'm not too certain what is happening here. So I'm trying to
Anyway,
see if I can hook up another
I'll hand back
device.
over to you.
But
Okay, well, George, you could go ahead while Professor sorts out in the background with the.
All right, fair enough. And that's just the thing about it. The way I see life, the way I see things is that usually a man always desires that his son be better than he is.
Hmm.
Quite often when a man has a vision for his son, for his offspring, he desires that they be better than he is. So, for me, it's kind of a bit of a conundrum, you know, that a son would aspire to be just like his dad, when a father, on the other hand, would desire that his sibling, his offspring, be better than him. So, is it that we have a double coincidence of goal setting between father and, let's say, son, for this example, or is it that a father can still be proud of his son for turning out just like he did?
Well, one of the things that's very interesting that you said, let's kind of work it this way. For example, Professor, before he was not able to be heard, is that he said that you have to be very careful these days in how you approach. And I find it very interesting because one of the things is that when we are in communities, old heads, we need to know who's in our communities. And so we present ourselves as not a threat, but as a friend. One of the things that I did I shared I didn't share with you is that I'm a barber, and so one of the things that I did in the area that I just started cutting hair in, I went to the school and I said, hey, I'm a new barber in this area. Uh, I would like to cut some of the guys' hair for free. If you know some of the young men here who they seem like they look scruggy, like they don't have a good home setting, here's my card. They can come over to the shop across the street. And as I see kids leaving for lunch, I speak to them, hey, how you doing? And I keep it moving. I want to cut. And I've had some young men now coming to the shop, you know, hey, Victor, is it true that you give me a haircut for real? How your grades? You see, start off that communication. Now, answer the question that you said. Can the father be proud of his son wanting to be like him? If his father has let's say, for example, back in the day, now me from coming from the States, back in the day when trades was the thing, the son used to go with the father and be that blacksmith or that carpenter, and the son took over the business and carried the business to another level. So there's nothing wrong with that son want to inspire to be like his dad. But it's nothing wrong with the dad saying that yes, you can take over the family business, but take it to another level. I'm thinking about a cleaners back in Alabama. There was a cleaners that was owned by a family. This father and the mother started the cleaners, and then the children took over it, and they carried it to another level. So it's nothing wrong with a child want to inspire to be like their father.
Absolutely. Because taking back to my history, to my past, my father, ironically, he was into construction. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate to go to one of the top schools in the land, Naparima College. Therein I studied business and computer science and the likes of such. But from the moment I graduated from school, at the age of 19, my father took me onto a construction site. And I remember him telling me, son, I don't expect you to build buildings for the rest of your life. However, I want you to have this knowledge. So when the day comes that you would have to build a house for yourself, even if you hire people to build a house for you, you can tell if they are giving you proper work or not. So even though he asked me to walk for a moment in his footsteps, his intention was never for me to be like him, mm-hmm. but rather to aspire to be greater or to level up, as we would say, mm-hmm. beyond what he did, yet still have that foundation of that knowledge that he acquired in his lifetime. And it was an eye-opening experience indeed.
I mean, if you think about it, George, if pronounce your name correctly, is that when you look at Fortune 500 companies, they are transitioned from the father down to his sons, and his son runs that business. You can look at several Fortune 500 companies that there are passed down from generation to generation. The thing is that when you look at it, is that when we look at the roots of our fathers, we look at where our fathers are or were where they were, and then we ask ourselves as young men or younger men, do I want to be like my father? And if I am going to be like my father, what did my father do to help my family? What did my father do to help the community? Did my father add to it, or did he take away? And then you have to now ask yourself, do I want to be a adder or a subtractor?
Indeed. So the next question that I would ask, Brother Riquen, you can jump in at any point in time. I know you're there, so you can jump in at any point in time. But for now, the question that I would ask, what happens in the scenario where we have a fatherless home, mm-hmm. where we have a young man who does not have that male mentor to emulate, what becomes of his life in terms of his ambitions, in terms of his vision for his life and his future? What happens in that scenario now?
Okay. So there are several things that can happen, and I would say should happen. He may not have a bloodline to connect to that is in his family. This is why it's so important that we as men, when we are in communities, that we get in touch with our communities and we know those children, those boys who don't have a father. Nothing wrong. See, one of the things that I believe that industrialization has done for us is that it's pulled us so far into the workforce that we want the big house and the big car so we can show people what we have. But then what we fail to realize is that the generation come behind us don't know what it is to have a father there. So what am I saying is that if we stop for a moment in time and learn how to just trace back the roots when the father used to go outside and throw a softball with their son, that was just time right there. You throwing a ball back and forth, and you getting in his head, and you're allowing him to get in your head. So, for example, a young boy don't have a father. You know that young man is in a community. What would it take for a couple of men to get together on a Saturday or a Sunday and say, you know what, we're gonna, I don't know anything about Trinidad, but I'm just saying, let's just, if you at a baseball field, say, you know what, we on the radio station, we're gonna have something called uh, fathers at his best on a Saturday or Sunday, and fathers are out there and they just throwing balls, softballs back and forth with young men, or remote control cars, and they just going back and forth, just starting that avenue where that young man, that young child that don't have a father, now he can say that, you know what, I can connect with Isaac. I can connect with George. I can connect with Richard, or I can connect with Alan. He has someone that connect him to. So it's not just because he's a fatherless child. He can connect and say that, you know what, my dad may not be there for me, but I know that there's somebody there that care for me. And that what that does is it helps the community to be re-strengthened. Because when we look at it right now, I don't care if you are in Canada, the States, or wherever you may be, if you don't take the time to reach back and help a young man to come out of the gutter of his mind, you're gonna have a society that don't care about you when you get older. See, that's what I look at, is that I searched out for men. I mean, rugged men, and watch how they were. Back in the day, for me, I watched the man that had the little pocket watch on their side with the Stacey Adams shoes, and I said, "Boy, I want to be like that." My grandfather was a dresser.
Right.
You know, that's what I aspired to be. I look for those men who, when they, they clean their Stacey Adams. I don't know if young guys know about that. When they go to the shoe shop and they let the shoe shine man clean their shoes off, and you can pretty much see their face off of their shoes.
Absolutely.
See, that's what we need
Mm.
to go back to as old heads. You see, you don't have what we have it now is we having a identity crisis with our old heads. We're not trying to put on the Jordans and having our pants sagging off our behinds. So the young boys that don't have anybody to look up to, they like we're competing with them. Old heads are trying to go to the clubs and hang out and try to get a young girl. Come on, your time has passed. It's time for us now to sit down and do some education instead of trying to hang out with the young boys and pop all these Viagra's. I'm sorry if I shouldn't have said that, but I'm just gonna be
Mm.
hot with you.
Amen.
No, you gotta be real. You gotta be real. Thank you so much, folks. Let me apologize. My internet seemed to be giving some problems. But let me just say this. One of the challenges we have, Victor, is that life has become so busy for
Hmm.
us that that scenario that you're painting there, going on a Saturday or a Sunday, people are not making time for that anymore. We don't have time. We have to go out and earn the money, earn the dollars. We have to, and it's not everybody chasing after the young woman. There some people are chasing the dollars, the money, because they have to provide for their family, and not only that, they have to keep up with the Joneses. They have to make sure that they have, certain things. A family must have more than one car. You have to have a couple cars in the family. So life has taken over. So the time that we need to spend with our young boys or our children, we are spending it doing something else. And we say to ourselves that, well, I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it so that my family can have more. They can, live a better life. And I think that that is part of the problem, is that we are not making the time we to build a family in terms of relationship. We want to build a family in terms of finances and providing for them. And that's where I believe that's one of the areas where we have gone wrong. And we need to rethink that and relook that. We need to understand how important it is to communicate with our youth, with our young boys. But again, you see, when I was growing up, we would play, well, you all have baseball and stuff, but we would play cricket and football and these games that we call yard games, pitching marbles and that sort of thing. Now, our children have devices in their hands. They have the iPads and the tablets and the phones. And so we are disconnected from them because we can't connect with them anymore. We're disconnected because these devices that they have taken over. So that's one of the challenges that we have in build by themselves. Yeah, I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I would say this, and I see one of the, I see Alan has his hand up. I want to say this quickly so he can speak. Is that that is the picture that we have painted. We have painted that canvas, that picture on that canvas. Now, understand, canvas can be repainted over. You see, we have the authority to change that. I mean, let's think about it. For example, you have a radio station where you can say, "Hey, fathers, we're going to be out on this place right here. We're going to go back old school and play cricket. You know, East gets North, and go out there and see how many young kids come out there and see." I guarantee you, if these guys right here that is on this platform right now said that, "Hey, old head's going to go out and play some football," and I know that um, your football is maybe different than what I'm thinking about football. We call it soccer. But even at that, nevertheless, I guarantee you, you have a young man who is inspired to be a soccer player. And you go out there with a soccer ball and you start kicking it back and forth. I guarantee you that phone will be in his back pocket and he'll be out on the field kicking the ball with you. Is that going back to again? Is that when we look at our father, the roots of our fathers, what did the fathers do in the communities old school to get our attention? You see, and we have to go back to that to gain the attention of our young men, because what are we painting for them right now? And I mentioned, Viagra earlier, just as a, to open it up. But what are we sharing with them now so they can experience and say that, you know what, I can trace the roots of, if it's not my father, let's say Alan, if he has children, I can trace the roots of Alan, and I see that he was out there with his children. He had fun with them. I want to be like that guy. That's what I'm looking for. I'll be quiet and hear Alan.
Riquen, go ahead.
Certainly. Great stuff so far. So one of the things that I'm thinking, I am a father of a handful, and and I mean, as has been identified as a parent and as a father, the focus is so much on the provision, making the provisions for the family and so on, that the family could be comfortable, and to have a decent lifestyle. And I'm thinking, as you were speaking, the word intentional came to mind. And in the same way that we are intentional about going out there and earning and, making the money, bringing home the bacon, so that, our children and our families can be provided for. There's also need for that level of intentionality to spill over into other areas, as it relates to our own children, but also making that community connection. And the reality is that on the dark side, um, we have competition. We have gangs. We have those who looking to recruit young people
Mm-hmm.
to build their nefarious empires.
Mm-hmm.
And they are intentional about it. They are
Mm-hmm.
intentional about the recruiting and so on. And the reality is, if we who have value to add to our young people,
Mm-hmm.
if we are not intentional and the evil elements are intentional, then success is not going to happen by default. It's only going to happen by design. So I want to make that point, even as we continue the discussion, the importance of intentionality in this whole issue.
Now, if I can quickly say this right here, you said that the intentions of gangs is to recruit. So when you think about gangs, only thing that is that young men are looking to a place to belong. That's it. They want to belong. In order for them to be able to be with somebody, unfortunately, they choose that role because those are the only people that are showing them love. You see, now I guarantee you, if we are intentional about playing soccer, you know, playing basketball with them, finding out what they enjoy doing, taking out time with them, even if it's just 30 minutes a day, or however it is, being intentional. I guarantee you, you'll begin to shape a community that think different. Now, let's take it for example, that game you talk about. I guarantee you, the baddest young man that is in that game has a mother, and you go meet that mother and you take out time with that mother because what? She may be a single parent. But you show as men coming together, showing her love and letting that baddest guy in that game see how men really move. It began to do something because why? You're seeing about his mom. You're taking out time to be there. And this is where we have to be as men. You know, I'm one to believe that. I'm optimistic to believe that I'm not going to allow myself to be scared because somebody have a gun. Now, I grew up around guns. I grew up around gangs. One of the gangs that come to my mind right now, when I was living in Smithfield, is BAQ. And I'm not going to tell you what that name stood for because it has vulgarity in it, but that's just how they were. But for me, those things don't scare me. I'm here in Canada, and some of the places that my wife is like, Victor, you shouldn't. I don't have that type of fear in my heart because every man put on his pants just like I do. That's just me. Because I look at from the standpoint of view is that every hard heart can be softened with the right touch. And I go in with the wisdom of God. Now I just don't go up to anybody, but when God impress upon me, that's when I move. One particular young man I'm talking about right now, as I'm in the shop, I'm seeing how big he is and how everybody's bowing down to him. But when I see him, hey young man, how you doing? And I look at him, I give him a little smile, and he'll just give me a little head up. And when I catch him by himself, hey, you can come over here and get you a cut. Now, this same hard-looking young man is now showing a glimmer of a smile. We have to be intentional, and I'm thankful that you use that word.
Wonderful. Folks, if you just join us, you are listening to Mentor on Isaac 19.1 FM, The Promise, on our YouTube channel, that's FBN TV, and also on our Facebook page, Isaac The Promise. And we want to, thank you for being with us, and also our sponsor, the Feet Lady, and Tony, the lady who does reflexology. We want to say thank you so much to our sponsor for sponsoring the program this evening. Our guest today is Victor L. Smith, and he's on fire when it comes to men and wanting to elevate men to the position of where we ought to be and to help to fix men, because a lot of us need fixing. And so the discussion tonight is the roots of our fathers. What are we? What type of effects our fathers, who they were, what type of effect that has on us present day? Are we destined to walk in the same footsteps? Are we destined to have the same challenges that our fathers had? And if so, how can we overcome them? And so that's the discussion tonight. And so we want to invite you to join in. We want to let you know as well that, ladies, if you're listening to us, 2751981. You can send a WhatsApp message, a question or comment. 2751981. We will give you the numbers in a short while for the men to call in. Ladies, please do not call in, but men, we want the men to call in. George, I see your hand is up, so I don't know if you have a comment to me. George?
Oh, yes, absolutely. One thing I wanted to add is that, it is fantastic to be intentional about making that time to spend with them on the field and that sort of thing. But we need to also remember that that same intentionality needs to go across the board. There are a number of, it's astounding to understand the number of young men, young adults that are out here, and there are fundamental things to being an adult that they aren't aware of, because we find that fathers would not take them along when it comes to things like going to the bank, paying bills. At the end of the day, you find that, yes, they admire the vehicles and they want to be able to own the vehicles. They have no idea what the system is like to be able to purchase a vehicle, what it means to have a good credit score, what it means to invest. Many of them don't know about cryptocurrency. They don't know about stocks. They don't know about financial well-being, the structures that you put in place, because a lot of fathers tend to keep this information taboo to their young men in their homes, because they think, well, he's not ready for that yet, and I'm not able to really guide him along. But just taking him along with you, taking him along on the job, showing him the discipline that you employ in getting to work, in spending a day on the job. These things are building blocks for him to be a better man when he comes to that stage of being an adult, when it comes to that stage of him taking the mantle and becoming a man. So these things need intentionality just as well. So that's my humble contribution there.
Thank you for sharing that, George. You hit the nail on the head. It does need to go across the board. So I go back to this thing right here. I mean, let's take it for example. I don't know all of you guys' background, but let's say, for example, you want to teach a young man about budgeting. You can have a community gathering of men coming together on how to budget your money. And this is something I want to go back to when Alan was saying that, we put so much emphasis on paying bills and making it, a good living for our family. What happened to the day when we used to barter? Back in the day when I remember my mom used to tell me, go take this bag of sugar over here to Miss Dot house, and she's going to give you some flour or some milk. Teaching that barter system. I mean, America always do it with Canada, and Canada with Trinidad. They still use the barter system, but we've gotten away from that for somehow. What happened when we can come together as men and show young men how we can go buy some land, and that land will just be for growing food? But we've gotten so docile now that we have to go to a grocery store. I don't know what name of your grocery store is there, but we have gotten so conditioned and so docile where now we wait for our food to be bought into a grocery store. Now, one of the things that we should have recognized is that when COVID happened, what did that do? I know for us, we had to get in lines, and you can only go in at so many at a time. And so if you was going in there for, let's say, toilet paper, and they only had 20 things of toilet paper there, and there's 100 people outside, and 50 of those people want toilet paper, what happens? What happens when, 500 people are in line to go to the grocery store, and there's only so much eggs there? So going back to, yes, I do believe that we need to educate them, but we as old heads need to stop and say, you know what? There are some things going on around the world that we need to recognize, that we need to come together. See, what happened is, and I have to say it for us men of a darker hue, we have gotten into this mentality that I got to get mine, you got to get yours. We have to come away from that and start coming together and saying, you know what, brother, if you got $20 and you got $20, we're going to come together and we're going to get some cryptocurrency. And then what we're going to do is we're going to buy some land. And what we're going to do with that land is that we're going to develop that land. Some of it going to be for farming, and then some area is going to be for trade. Somebody has to stop and say that we got to do this together. as men, if we want our stability of our communities to continue on. We talk about legacy. Well, we have to do that. I mean, when me coming up, even though it was something that I looked at, I remember the older mans used to be on the corner store. They used to pass this wine around. You know, they shared it, even though it wasn't the right thing to do. You know, they tearing down their bodies. But what they learned to do is they put their nickels together to go buy that wine. How come we can't put our nickels together, our $5 together, and go buy some land? And showing our young men that you want that car, that's fine, well and good. But can you eat that car? You see, we need to educate our brothers on that. And one of the beautiful things that I have to say to Professor and those who have a radio show, you know, you can, you know, begin to instill this in the young men in these ways that we need to go. Because what is happening is that we're raising up a generation of men who do not understand what it is, as you say, how to balance a checkbook. You know, what is balancing a checkbook? What is that? What is a budget? All I know is when I get a paycheck, I need to go spend it. No, they need to understand what you said about a credit score. Keeping it below 30%, that's only that you spend. But we don't talk about those things. And so what happened is that as soon as they get a job, bam, my son, he's 18. He just graduated from James Clement High School in Huntsville, Alabama. And in that moment of time that I was speaking with him, he got a job with Toyota. And I was telling him he's 18. Now he's got a job for Toyota. And he was like, Dad, I'm going to get this. And I was like, son, I'm proud of you, but let's take it down a notch. Take it down a notch, because what happened is that you're going to be enslaved. And see, this is the modern day slavery we don't talk to our children about. When you get all these credit card debts, that's modern day Egypt. And we have to help our young men to understand is that there's nothing wrong with having a car or a credit card, but you need to know how to manage that. And as you said, George, taking them to the side and saying, hey, it's good that you got that, but let's show you how to do that. So education is the key. Intentional education to our young men. Yeah. And let me say this right here quickly. When we begin to show young men how they should go, what it does for our young girls, it brings them up to a level and said, you know what? If I want to be in a running to have a good man, I need to bring up my game. I need to bring up my game. And so, for instance, the men are here. I don't know how many of you know, Alan said that he has a handful. Let's say, for example, if you have young boys, I need to be a man. If I have girls, I'm looking for a husband for my children. I need to make sure that we're going to be building a community together. And that's why I said that we have to come together as brethren, because when we think about it, your daughter go marry someone or your son go marry somebody. You don't want your son to be in debt because she don't ran off and left him. Or your daughter's now sitting on swole pregnant because only thing that he had to bring to her was between his legs. But give her something to look up to and say that, you know what? My dad opened up the door for my mom. My dad, he waited at the table with her and he saw about her. You see what I'm saying? Those things that we have to bring back to the table.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Victor, for what you're sharing. I'm still here, guys, on another device. But just to let you know, and give me 1 second, Riquen. I see your hand is up. Victor, one of the challenges we have, you talk about teaching men to bringing men together and talk to them about that. One of the challenges we have in our culture here in Trinidad and Tobago is that men don't like to sit down and listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might call, you might or organize something in the community. Let's have let's talk about finances for men, and you'll have maybe one or two. You have something for the ladies, and the place will be packed out.
Mm-hmm.
But you have something for the men, and they wouldn't come. So
mm-hmm.
you want to teach them, you want to point to them, you wanted to guide them, you want to tell them what to do, but they're not present for it. And we have to find a way to encourage men to come and listen and learn. That is what we haven't found as yet. That is the challenge that we have, to get men interested. They may acknowledge that they don't know, something, and they need to learn it, but they're not coming. I don't know if it's because they don't want other men to see them, and we have this ego. Us men, we have this ego. I shouldn't be in a position where you look down at me, or you don't think that I understand or that I know. So they don't come. They don't come. So we have to find a way to disseminate the information to the men, without having them come together. I don't know how possible that is, but that is one of the challenges that we have. We're not getting the men to come out and to learn, so that we can teach them, so that we can have better men. That is a big challenge for us.
So let me ask you a question. Do you fish?
Well, fishing is not a big thing in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, there are people
No. That's not what I asked. I asked, do you fish?
No, me? No, I don't fish.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you this. If you know anything about fishing, can you use the same bait to catch all fish?
Well, I guess not.
You can't.
No.
So in order to be able to gain a man's attention is, number one, there has to be a survey. There has to be a study. I mean, let's think about it, for example. Now, one of the things that I do know about Trinidad and Tobago, you'll have a great oil supply. Am I correct? Right or wrong?
Oil, yes.
You have oil there, right? So you have land developers who came there, and what they did was they surveyed your land, correct?
Correct.
And so when they surveyed your land, they saw who was around your land, and so they can attract the type of people there to be able to extract that oil, right or wrong. So what they did was they studied your culture. They studied your land. You have to study the man that you're trying to attract. We just can't come up and say, see, the thing is that for me, for example, now I went to school. I went to Oakwood University as a private Christian college, and okay, that's fine, well and good. But if I want to catch somebody who's into a trade, I can't be talking to him with these big words. And I'm not trying to say that he cannot understand or articulate those things, but I don't need to go to him with that. I need to go to something that attracts his attention. For example, if one of the gentlemen there said that his dad was in construction, build houses. So we got to use framework that catches his attention. You can get the man, but you have to speak his language. It's just like a young boy trying to get a young lady's attention. He can't use the same line on the same young lady, especially if she got wits just as smart as him. She could say, you know what, my brother tried that line on somebody else. You can come on with something else. We have to study the man that we're trying to attract. That's the thing. And I know it seemed like a lot of work, but guess what? I'm 50. I'm 51. I'll be 51 at the end of this month, and I've been in this thing about going after men. And one of the things that we don't talk a lot. We don't like to let people know that we don't know anything, because what happens is it makes us look weak. But one of the things that I told God is that is the ministry that I see that you've gave me, and so I've always gone that way. This group that I started, One Sound, One Voice. When I came here to Toronto, when I talked to the guys about what it was about, they was going the other way. Now I've got men coming and say, hey, I heard about your group that you start. How do I become a part of that? So we can't run with it. We have to walk with it, and definitely take the time to study the man that we're trying to catch.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, I see both guys, Riquen and George. I don't know which one of you want to go first. Your both hands are up. So first come, first serve.
All right, I'll go first. I am curious to find out, because you have been described as HOT, and I recognize that HOT is an acronym for honest, open, and transparent. How important, how critical has that been in connecting with men, in terms of your experience, in engaging them and getting them to come around and to buy into what you are doing? How important is that philosophy of being honest, open, and transparent?
It has been very critical because one of the things about us as men, we spot BS when we see it. And when we see it, we ain't got time to deal with you. And I say exactly that. We're not going to deal with you. What you see here is what you get. How I am here is how I am. And men have recognized that because why? They studied me. I've had men say, hey, man, I watch you when you know I'm not watching you. And one of the things that let me tell you a little history about me. So God has blessed me to be married again. I got married my first time at the age of 19. Had no business being married. I mean, having children, had no business doing that, but I did. And I was a womanizer. And because of that, it helped contribute to the demise of that first marriage. And so when I talk to men, I talk about those things. You see, I talk about the things that I was addicted to, pornography, and how it left me in a bad way, in a bad state where I've lost a lot. And when a man can see that, whoa, this can happen to me if I don't turn, if I don't turn from that thing that I'm doing, this can be me. This man is actually telling me what has happened to him. And so that transparency needs to come off, and people need to understand that it's just not a game. I'm not trying to gain a man's attention so they can look at me and say, oh, wow, look at how he's achieved. No, man, brother, let me tell you something. Reality is this right here. It hurt me to have lost my family. I told you I had an 18-year-old. He's in Huntsville, Alabama, the States. I'm here in Canada. I didn't raise him. You see, that was bad for me. How does it feel for me as a man who have children and aspire to see my grandchildren when my granddaughter asked me one day, because my ex-wife, she got remarried. She said to me one day when she was young, she said, granddaddy. I said, yeah, baby. She said, who is my real granddaddy? You or Mr. Chris? Now that's my ex-wife husband. Man, that stuck me like a knife. Who is my real granddaddy? And so I looked at her and I said a quick prayer. God, give me wisdom, because my mom always told me, ask for wisdom and get thy understanding. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. And my granddaughter's name is Nyla. I said, well, let me ask you a question, Nyla. She said, yes. I said, who is your mama's dad? She said, you are. And I smiled. And she said, so you my real granddad. And she grabbed me and I hugged her. You see? So me sharing something about myself, men have to see that. I don't put on the facade. What you see is I've gone through some things. And this is why my passion is that making sure that men don't have to go through the things that I went through. See, we can build a community, but we have to take out the time to do it. I'm just as busy as any man. Let me tell you something. I'm a supervisor. While COVID was happening, I went back and got I have a bachelor's in science, and here in Toronto, I got my certification in barbering, and I have some more other certification. But yeah, that's hoopla. But my thing is that making sure that a community that looked like me is still stable. And I can't be in this bubble saying that, well, I've made it through. You got to get through. Well, what my mind think about, Alan? When I get old, can I depend on a young man that probably may help me cross the street? Now, I keep myself healthy, but I want to be in a position that when I get old, a young guy can say, hey, don't mess with Victor, man. He helped me out. He gave me a free haircut, or he took me to the side and talked to me, or he talked to me about cryptocurrency or whatever like that. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, George. Yes, just a little technical difficulty, but I am here. Victor, at the end of the day, you had me sitting and thinking here, because my life is quite the opposite in terms of, unlike everyone here, I am not married. I have no kids.
Mm.
However, I do have that desire to pass on in my life some of the things that I've learned. And Professor, you spoke just now, and you spoke the three key words that I learned as a young teacher when I started to teach. At first, it was truly my desire to impart knowledge to students. And for me, it was such a difficult thing being able to communicate with these kids. Like I said, not having kids myself. And a senior teacher who was on the way to retirement, he saw me frustrated and he asked me, well, Mr. Thomas, what's wrong? I said, well, there's so much that I want to impart to them, but I'm not sure how to do it. He said, you want to become a successful teacher in life? And I said, well, yes, of course. If there's a magic wand or a secret formula that I can implement, then by all means do share. He said, find a way. And those three words opened up so many doors and so much potential for me that I've learned to apply it to every aspect of my life when reaching out to people. Find a way. There's always a way to reach out to a young man out there. There's always a way to communicate with someone who is in need of your expertise and your knowledge. You, the burden is on you to find the key to open that lock so that they can access the knowledge that you're imparting to them. And as fathers, it is important for us to find a way. So many times, on this program, we speak about the fact that men are so unwilling to speak, particularly in the presence of other men, in the presence of women. If you are not willing to communicate, if you are not willing to put yourself out there and run the risk of even failing and getting up and trying again, then there's no way that you can create that bridge for younger men to run across. But I assure you, the day, the moment, the hour that you commit yourself to finding a way, trusting God to find a way, locks can be unlocked, gates can be opened, and people can now access things that they never knew existed before. So it's my humble appeal as we discuss this to the men out there who have that wealth of knowledge before taking it to the grave. Find a way. Find a way.
Thank you, George.
Wise words. Wise words.
And that's my humble contribution.
Thank you so much, George. Thank you. Folks, if you're just joining us, we want to let you know that you're listening to Men Talk on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise. We are live on Facebook. That's Isaac The Promise. We're also live on YouTube. That's FBN TV. And so you can see us as well as listen to us. But you can't see me right now. I'm having a little bit of problem with with my device right now. But I know you are hearing me loud and clear. So we want to continue. Now we want to bring in some others on the conversation, those who have been listening. And maybe you have a comment to make, a question to ask. We want to let you know that you can call us now. The numbers are, remind me of the numbers out of Solar. 622-1981. It's been so long that we've used these numbers that I want to be sure that I'm giving the correct numbers, because we, for a few months now, we have been using some other numbers.
Yes,
so we are
Professor.
back to our own numbers.
622-1981 is 622-1981 is correct, and also 628-1981 are our old, right, which is our new. Back to our numbers.
Back to our numbers, right? So 622-1981 and 628-1981. Those are the two numbers that you can get us if you have a question. And of course, if you, for the ladies in particular, if you have a comment to make or a question to ask, it's 275-1981.
We have a call. We have a call, Professor. We want to take it one time.
Yeah, let's go.
Hello. All right, we missed that one. We have Pastor Raymond as well wants to chime in on the discussion. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Mr. Pastor Victor. Your role, your skill set is so significant. I always tell people the person after God that we trust is our barbers. Yeah, that's very serious. We do some interaction with young men in schools, especially, and when we ask them who they trust the most after God, and they say, "Well, my father, I'm this," we say, "No, it's not that. It's your barber." I say, "How come?" That's because a man with a blade passing by your throat, a man with a blade passing by your temple, a man with a blade is all you have to do is slip to buzz that. And apart from that, I look at in terms of sitting on that chair. It's like a whole therapy, not just the haircut. And you're sharing some salient things. I think the church, we really need to get back to there. You see, you talk about communication and connecting, and sometimes that eye connection, and there's that nodding of the head, that smile reaching to the heart, and just saying, hey, with your facial expression, in spite of what's going on, I'm concerned about you. You know, there's hope for you. All those things speak volumes. I didn't grow up much with that. I nobody involvement with the gang, being in that group. And when you try to approach me in that group, you could get cuss up. You know, I could be very disrespectful and stuff like that because you're fronting. But when you meet me outside of that group and you have conversation with me, I receive it, I listen, I ponder on it. So sometimes when you see them, you feel they're not taking you on, right? Quickly, just yesterday, I bounced up a scenario. And to me, once you're a child, I just say you had to shoot me, you had to kill me. But it's very difficult for me to walk away where children are doing adult things. And, you know, when I reached some of them, they were gambling. And I, you know, just approached them, we had a nice chat, and I was encouraging them why that's a bad habit to pick up, and smoking and stuff. And we had a really nice little chat. And I offered them something that is practical to them. And next week, please God, hopefully we'll roll it out. Yes, I'm a believer, I'm a pastor, but I didn't went with a cloud. I went with a brother, person in the community, somebody who care. And then I asked them if they're willing to participate in an initiative. And the young men and them were like, yes. And right there, I began to identify the leaders in the group. And I said to them, listen, you all will be the team captain, right? Team captain. So we're going to meet and we're going to plan out this that you all interested in. And it's not a spiritual exercise, but guess what? It is also beneficial to them. And the key thing is making that kind of connection. And I share with somebody, you have guys who wouldn't take a picture to put on their own ID. And, you know, I asked some of them, I was preparing a video, and I said, listen, I would like to get a little shot of some of you all. I'm not going to take your faces, right? I just want to create. And to my surprise, who called who? They say, man, a man like you? Yeah, you could get that. That is not a problem. You know, who drinking the little thing and smoking the stuff, put it away just at that moment just for me to get. And it just says that your presence is important and really trust in God. We are sowers, and God help us sometimes to water and He give the increase. Sometimes we feel that, as somebody said, no, Riquen, no vex with me. Don't be like an insurance agent. Once I speak to you, you have to sign up one time. Our presence is critical. We're now talking in studio. We need to we need to change how we do church. Start to say, and this is a reality. Church is very effeminate in its output. The color we wear, we dress it up, the way we do it, the way we do service, sometimes it more appeal to a female. We really have to consider that. And I may not even want to be attracted to the building. So we have to meet them with that. So I'm listening to what you're saying, and you are doing an excellent job. And that is critical and crucial, man. Blessings and grace.
If I can speak to something the pastor just said, that is very, he said something. One of the things is that when it comes to the church is that the truth has not, all the truth haven't been told to us, especially when they look like us. Me coming up, I always, in fact, I was just talking to a group that I did a Bible study with, is that I was talking to them about when I was coming up, I had a problem with this Jesus that I used to look at on you know, painted on the walls or whatever, that they was blue eyes and blonde hair. I had an issue with that, because when I hear people quote 2 Chronicles, the 7th chapter, the 14th verse says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves in praise, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, I will heal their land. As a boy, I'm talking about 10, 12 years old, I asked the question just to myself, who people are they talking about? Because the man that I'm looking up there don't look like me. And me growing up in Birmingham, Alabama, I'm 50, okay? So my mom, she grew up in an era where she had to sit on the back of the bus. You see, she had to drink from a different water fountain than our lighter brothers and sisters did. Okay, my mom stayed roughly 10 blocks away from the 16th Street church that got bombed, where 4 young girls was killed. So for me as a young boy, I went to church with my mom, but I had reservations because that man that they showing up on those pictures look like the very same people that hate my skin. So why am I being subjugated to this? But now being older, God has opened up my eyes to recognize that that Bible is not a white man's Bible, because when I read it, I recognize that my history is in there. So when I go back and taking what you're talking about, Pastor, and our roots of our fathers, we don't know, a lot of our old heads don't know where our roots come from. Now we know that there was an ark, and that was Noah on the ark, and that was Ham, Shem, and Japheth. But we don't ask the question, what lineage did we come from? Who are we? And so we've been bamboozled with this thing is that, oh, you just arrived. So my question is that why would a God who is blonde with blue eyes create me? Because after all, Genesis 1 says that I was created in the likeness of him. So why would he create me to put me around some people who hate me, to torture me? You see, so when we look at this thing, we have to sit down and recognize and go back and say that, what was our forefathers doing that caused them to be hated by their brothers and sisters? Because after all, we are brothers and sisters, whether we want to believe it or not. What were they doing? They turned from the God that they supposed to have been serving. And so those generational curses have been passed down from generation to generation. We talked about early in our dialogue here is that, you know, if my dad was a drug addict or alcoholic, am I going to be one? Well, those strong generational curses. So what we have to do as men, we have to break that curse. And how you break that curse is that you turn from those things. It can happen. So I'm speaking to any man here who's caught up in pornography or drug addiction or whatever it is, or gangs, and you want to stop having 2 women over here and 3 women over there, and you want to live an upright life. You have to make that conscious decision and say that, you know what, I want to break this curse that has been on me. And I want to connect with some men who will hold me accountable. So when we look at that word hot, honest, open, and transparent, that means not just only me, but that's me surrounding myself by a group of men who don't mind telling me, Victor, your breath stink. You see, we have become so sensitive now that a professor can't tell me something. You see, I become so finicky about, oh, he can't tell me nothing. I'm 50 years old. What are he telling me something for? No. We came up in a tribe. And there was an order how things went. And because we've become so relaxed in the order of things, we just we just sitting back and just watching things and say, well, I'm old now. No. What the teacher said earlier is that find a way. And that's what my mindset is. Find a way. You may close this door upon me, but guess what? I'm going to find out if that door have hinges, and I'm taking them hinges off because I'm going through that door.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much, Victor. Folks, we only have a few more minutes. It's 9:19. And so if you want to give us a call, please call us now at 622-1981, 622-1981, or 628-1981. Ladies, you can send in your WhatsApp messages to 275-1981. You know, guys, I had an experience just a couple of days ago. A very simple experience, but, you know, I was reminded of it tonight as we were talking. Now, I have 4 sons in all. And my last son just started going to secondary school. And he's the only one of the 4 that showed some interest in sports. So he decided he wanted to play cricket for his school. But playing cricket for school meant for me, now I have to pick them up every day. There are 3 of them that are going to school. So I have to pick up 1, 2. He's the last one. And the time the school is over, it gives us enough time to get home, and beat the traffic. But playing cricket means to me that I know I have to stay. And he has practice twice a week. He has matches going on because the league has started. So it means that I now have to spend that time, sacrifice that time, and stay with him while he's practicing. I would prefer to be home. I would prefer to be on my way home. But I realize it's important for him that daddy stays and sees me play cricket.
Amen.
Right? That is something I'm depositing in his life. But it means that I have to make that sacrifice. I mean, his 2 other brothers have to make that sacrifice too because they're with me. But the point is, I am sure that he feels good to know, hey, listen, daddy and my brothers, they're here. They're watching me practice. They watched the game. I mean, they had 1 game already. He played in the game. And we were there cheering him on. And, I know it's important to him. And I felt so good. I didn't expect, my wife was saying to me, she says, honey, I'm sorry, I have to stay back so late to watch them. And I had to tell her, I said, don't feel sorry for me. I feel good to know that I'm here watching my son play cricket. I'm supporting him. And the others are seeing too, and they might, because I only saw 1 or 2 other dads there. And I'm sure maybe the other boys might go home and say, daddy, Judah's father was there. Watching us play cricket, can you come to? I'm hoping that happens so they can encourage their fathers to come out. But I'm saying that to say this is what we've been talking about. Our fathers have to do the right thing. They have to show the support. We as fathers have to show the support for our children so that they would know, hey, listen, my daddy cares about me. So even when he speaks to me, I will listen to him. And that's the way, we guide our young people. So, I just thought I'd share that because that happened this week. It started this week. And I feel so good. I feel so good to know that I can be there for my son.
Yeah. Now, think about that. What do you think that he would value the most? Now, my son, we know COVID is this thing, right? My son graduated. And so I was telling my wife, I said, well, those tickets are going to be expensive. It would have cost us close to $2,000 to fly. Right. And I was telling my son, and in fact, I was telling my mom, I just give him the money and I'm pretty sure he'll be happy with that. And remember, my mom and my wife said that, no, he'd rather see you. So I was like, hey, okay. So what my wife and I did, we packed up in a car and we drove those 15.5 hours. And driving there, I just saw him when he was a baby in a crib. See, my last son was a preemie, and I remember seeing him in that incubator, and that's what got me there those 15 hours. And when I saw him, he and we had that moment of talking, and it was like we connected. That it's like, I know you and mom divorced when I was 5, but dad, you was there for me, whether you know it or not. You were there for me, and it helped me to say, you know what? Thank you. The time was better than just the money. So what am I saying to you is that your son is going to remember the time that you spent with him. And this is what we want to leave that legacy. I mean, it's been said that only thing that black men do is have children and keep it moving. Well, let me tell you something. There are some black men who really want to be in their father's life. But what happened is that we have a society that have shaped it where it moves the father out of the way. And so now mothers are raising up these boys by themselves. Well, let's ask the question. Something is wrong with that because those boys are the main ones that's running to men gangs to find a father figure. Those same young boys are trying to find other young boys to do mischief with because why? They want to see somebody that look like them. Though they love their mom, but they need that father. So my brothers, I want to say to you, if you're in a position where you want to be in your son's life or your daughter's life, but the mom is keeping you away, let me tell you something. I'm going back to what this man said earlier. Find a way. You get yourself together and start walking upright. I guarantee you, Yahshua will give you that opportunity to be with your child.
Amen. Amen. Guys, we have to wrap up now. We only have a few more minutes, so I'm going to ask both Riquen and George, to make some final comments, and then our guest Victor before we wrap up this evening. Riquen.
Absolutely. Wonderful program this evening. Really enjoyed it. And what I wanted to find out, or what I would like to find out, is for brothers who would have heard tonight's program, and something would have stirred on the inside, and you've made some mistakes, you've made some boo-boos, some errors, you've dropped the ball. How can as men, how can we go about rectifying that? And secondly, do you have a template, something that is reproducible for other men to follow in Trinidad, for example, to be able to make that kind of difference in the lives of young men?
Okay, thank you, Riquen. I think that question was directed to Victor, wasn't it?
Yes.
Was it? Okay, great. Victor, I don't know if you heard him, if you want to respond.
Yes.
But before you do, Victor, let me just hear from George, and then we're going to give you the rest of the time. George?
Yes, it was definitely and absolutely a wonderful experience being here for another Men Talk, learning as we go along. Trinidad and Tobago, men of Trinidad and Tobago. Even if you are a seasoned father, or if you're like me, still looking forward to God blessing you with a family, you have something deep within you that is of value. That is of value to the future generation that you look over. Take that chance. Find that way to reach out to a young man today, a young lady today, to impart the knowledge that you have within you, because they need you. You need to find the keys to help them chart their future. That is with you, and it's a gift given to you from God. So as we conclude this program, I implore you, search yourself and find that place to teach someone who's looking up to you. Love you. Have a wonderful evening, Trinidad and Tobago. God bless.
Thank you, George. And so, Victor, before you conclude, let me just say thank you so much for sharing, imparting the knowledge with us, sharing your experience. We want to stay in contact with you because we would want to have you come back again. We know there's a lot more that you can share with us, so we will keep that connection. But thank you for tonight, for all that you've shared. May God richly bless you and all that you're doing. Continue, pouring into the men that come your way, that God has placed within your sphere. And we just pray God blessing in you. So I want you to close off tonight in terms of, I know Riquen asked a question, you could respond to it, and anything. We just have, well, we only have 1 minute, but you see what you can go. I'll give you 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
If that's possible.
All right. So the question was asked, do I have a template to share? I do have a template. And going back, number one, real quick, is that when you have dropped the ball, all you have to do is just say, well, you know what, I'm sorry. I apologize for dropping the ball. Even if you have been a man who has walked out on your family and you want to come back home, but your wife says, I don't want you anymore. Your girlfriend or your children's mother said they don't want you anymore. That's fine. That's okay. It's hurtful. That is okay. But one thing that you can do is say, you know what, I messed up with you, but give me the opportunity to be there for my children. Even if you have what they have called a deadbeat dad, how you show them different is do the opposite of what you've been doing deadbeat. Let them see you stand up right now, pulling your pants up and putting a belt on, shining some shoes off, wear a tie every once in a while. Show a different you. You see, allow people to see a different person. If you're a man that you smoke weed or whatever, cut their hair off and start fresh hair and change your clothes and change your outlook and your appearance. And a lot of people have said, you know what, I see a difference. You see, you can't walk that same way and expect people to treat you different. You got to be something different in order for that mother to want to trust you with her children. Y'all children, correction, y'all children. You see, so you have to do something different. You can't go there with whiskey on your breath and say, these my children. Nobody's gonna that love their children gonna give their children like that to no one, because you haven't showed that you have any responsibility. So that's the first thing that has to do. The second thing is have some accountability, some support around you. Now, how that can happen is that you can be the first man and say, you know what? I want to walk this way, and I'm looking for the brothers that want to walk this way with me. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start brushing our teeth and combing our hair. Now, you may say you're supposed to do that anyway, but some men don't, because if they're drinking all the time and smoking all the time, sometimes that is the last thing they do. Taking care of yourself, clean yourself up, and start exercising. You see, start taking some walks. If you can't run, jog. You can't jog, walk. Have that support group saying, hey guys, we're going to get together 5 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever, and we're going to take a walk. Start looking different, seeing yourself looking different, doing something different, hanging around men who are men of valor. That's in a community, you see them doing something and say, hey, I need a mentor. I don't care if you're 50 years old. I have a mentor and I'm 50. And I call him and say, hey, and he call and check on me. So it's nothing wrong with having a mentor. So let's take the age out of it. Let's take the pride out and allow yourself to see what you can become different than what you are now. I want to say thank you for allowing me to come on, Professor, and for the people here who invited me on, and my cousin-in-law, Nicole. I want to say thank you for allowing me this time to spend with you, and I would definitely love to stay contact with you guys and, hey, help you start a support group that can help build your community, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, helping one another, no matter where you're from. Whether I'm from the South or you from Trinidad and Tobago, we're supposed to be here. We are our brother's keepers. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you so much to you, Victor Smith. Thank you. God bless you for all that you've shared. Thank you, Riquen. Thank you, George. Raymond in studio and Adesola, thank you guys. And Adesola, thank you for the extra 2 minutes. We've gone over, but we just want to end here. We will be back next Saturday at 8 o'clock again from the Men Talk. Thank you to our sponsor, the Feet Lady, Anaya Tony. Thank you so much. God richly bless you. That's the end of Men Talk for this evening. And at this time, I want to, let me just say thank you as well to Nicole Larson, who made the connection. This is her cousin-in-law. And thank you, Nicole, for, if you're listening, for making the connection for us. God richly bless you. So that's it, folks. Adesola is back over to you in studio. Bye-bye for now, folks.
Thank you, Professor.
To the men who feel like you're at your wits' end.
Hey, this is Noel Professor Richards, inviting you to join me every Saturday night at 8 p.m. for Men Talk. We will talk about how to live, how to love, and how to lead. It's 1.5 hours of men talking about all the things that men talk about. So don't miss it. It's Men Talk every Saturday at 8 p.m. on Isaac The Promise Facebook page, FBN TV, and Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise.
Hello.
Hey Jack, you missed the meeting yesterday, boy. What happened?
Andrea was under some pressure, boy. Well, you know, Uncle have diabetes, high blood pressure, and poor circulation. He couldn't even walk properly yesterday, so I took him to the Feet Lady, boy, Dr. Anaya Tony. And let me tell you something, when they're done with him, he feels so good. You know the man forget he walking stick by them. When I go back for the next session, we'll get back, man.
I must send her number to my cousin. She have a pinched nerve, lupus. And I think she uncle got stroke, you know. I had to see about my back pain too.
Well, Andrea, what are you waiting for? Take these numbers down one time. 360-5166 and 478-7416. Dr. Anaya Tony, boy, the Feet Lady from Anaya Health and Wellness Center. You can't go wrong. Your revival